Well, good morning and welcome back to the start of our travels across Newfoundland. We've been on the island now 2 months, but for the first month we stayed in a house sit in Holyrood, and then our last month we've been in a rental house in Torres Cove on the east coast. But we've now left there and we're now starting our grand tour, and we are here today at Terra Nova National Park. We had pre-booked our campsite here, not quite sure where we went wrong, but we've managed to book ourselves into a small campground loop here, where they have extended generator hours and a massive playground for the kids. Well, it's the worst place to be. Well, it would be, but fortunately, there's no one else here. It's just us. So, we've been making the most of it. Morning! You never lose it. How'd you stop? Well, I've finally managed to drag her off the playground. Took a bit of doing. And we are now making ourselves take the coastal trail. It's roughly a 3-mile trail from the campground to the visitor centre, the Terra Nova National Park Visitor Centre, where we can hopefully get some more information than we already have and get a hot drink when we get there. The weather is not as great as we would like, and it's supposedly, talking to the ranger last night, going to get worse over the next couple of days. So there's something to look forward to. There is apparently along this trail a waterfall called Pissamere Falls. Ooh, like many things. Did. Yeah, nearly did have a fall. Like many things on this island, it has a wonderful name, but we'll see whether it's a Pissamere Falls or a Gushing Falls when we get there.
Well, we've made it to the falls, the waterfall.
It's
not gushing.
Not gushing, but
Nice
a bit more
flow.
than a Pissamere, I think. So maybe a new name for it. Midstream? Now, I was at this point going to do a voiceover that explained how we were nearing the visitor centre and looking forward to our hot drink, which, by the way, they didn't do, but instead I need to explain how we went from being in Terra Nova National Park to being around 200 miles away in a small community called Harry's Harbour, and more specifically in an Airbnb called Nancy's Nest. The explanation is really quite a simple one. It pissamered down for the next 2 days solid and caused widespread flooding over many parts of the island. And with no signs of any let-up in the weather for the next day or two, we cut short our time in Terra Nova National Park and headed west, initially as far as Gander. And over a cup of coffee in good old Tim Hortons, we decided Harry's Harbour and Nancy's Nest was the option for us. We didn't know it at the time, but this turned out to be one of the best spur-of-the-moment decisions we could have made. While the weather at Harry's Harbour was a slight improvement to that at Terra Nova, it was far from perfect. But Now that we had a nice warm Airbnb to return to, and with a short break in the stormy weather, we donned waterproofs and set off to explore the local area. Starting at the nearby bay and the trailhead for a coastal hike to King's Cove. The bay was home to a number of small icebergs, and the beach was littered with smaller pieces of ice that had broken away as the icebergs slowly disintegrated. As I'm sure you can imagine, after all the recent rain, the going on the trail was very wet, and pretty much we walked in water all the way. However, the hike was not without its rewards. We encountered some icebergs extremely close to shore, and while they weren't the most beautiful icebergs we'd ever seen, we did manage to get a couple of close-up photos without the need to take a boat trip. On reaching King's Cove, we were treated to a number of sightings of a humpback whale, but unfortunately, we only managed to capture a very short video clip of the action.
There he is, over there.
For those of you who sneezed, blinked, or even stared really hard, here it is again in very slow motion. I know someone who isn't getting BBC Cameraman of the Year award. How does that song go?
What a difference a day makes.
Just look at the weather we woke up to on our last day at Harry's Harbour. This much improved weather encouraged us to get out of the house and explore the local area, and we were certainly pleased that we did. Our first sighting of the day was of this young moose. And shortly after, we came across an iceberg shaped like a turtle. And then we saw this sign to the Ocean View walking trail. With the promise of viewing just about everything you could ever wish to see in Newfoundland, how could we not take the hike? And just like our previous hike to King's Cove, the going was very wet in places.
Oh my god, that was deep. I'm not going that way. I'm going this way.
But fortunately, there was a lot more boardwalk on this trail. The trail led to a total of 3 lookout points, with the furthest lookout being the lookout that looked out to a sea arch.
Good morning, and what a beautiful morning. Just caught me taking a photograph of this sea arch. come to the central region of Newfoundland, a region that we shouldn't really be in just yet. We should have spent the last 4 days in Terra Nova National Park. I think we had just completed the hike, the coastal hike there, got back, had the evening at the campground, and then the next morning we woke to torrential rain. And it wasn't just a downpour that was going to last for an hour or two, it lasted all day and was forecast to last all through the night and the following day. And we looked at each other and thought we didn't fancy sitting in the Land Rover for 2 days solid. So we decided that it looked a little bit better if we headed slightly further west. So being the great adventurers we are, we camped for 2 nights and then came across to an Airbnb. But even here, where we are, we have had rain for the last 2 or 3 days, haven't we?
Yeah.
And today is the first day the sun has come out.
It's our last day here.
Yeah, we're just a short stop in an Airbnb. So, you know, we've got to break ourselves in gently. 2 months living in a house, 2 days camping, and then back in a house.
And it's a lovely house.
It's a beautiful house. We're staying in a location called Harry's Harbour. That's just north of Nicky's Nose Cove. And we found this lovely little spot, a beautiful Airbnb owned by Nancy and her husband Dale. They've let us rest up there, dry up, get things organised in the vehicle because we just had to pack up in a rush. Tomorrow morning we leave Harry's Harbour and we head across to Lomond in Gros Morne National Park. I'm not sure what the weather is meant to be, but certainly when I last looked, the forecast did show a few spots of rain here and there, but nothing like we've had the last few days. There's pictures being posted on Facebook of some of the small towns here that have been flooded. It's been horrendous. So that's
nice icebergs here.
But we were very shocked. We thought we'd seen all the ice when we first arrived on the island, but
no, they're still going.
But no, there's a little hike just away, we can do from our house, and
to King's Cove. That's where we saw a lonely seal, and we saw a whale breaching.
Humpback whale breaching half a dozen times. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, as I say, the icebergs, they come in, they break up, they flip over, and then they wash out again. Quite surprised.
Or melt.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're not melting very quick, I don't think. But yeah, they surprising how many icebergs. Nothing massive, but just lots of small ones. So with the weather picking up as it has done this morning, we've driven just a few miles from Harry's Harbour. We're actually on a hike called the Ocean Trail, I think. It's somewhere between King's Cove and Langdon's Cove. And it's got 2 or 3 of these beautiful lookout points. This one allows you to see the sea arch back here. And we can see an iceberg over there in the distance. I'll try and see if I can get a shot of that in a minute, but they're quite a way away. But yeah, like everywhere, it's beautiful in the sun.
On the return back to the car, we came across this fellow. See how long it takes you to spot him. And now, as most of you know, filming wildlife can be extremely difficult, so I much prefer to go to a wildlife rental agency where you can hire wildlife by the hour, and then they follow your instructions. That's it, come to stage centre. Now, look to your left. Yep, no, that's right, your left. Now right. Yeah, now look at me. And now look right quickly. And now walk towards me. That's it. Not so fast, just a bit slower. Yep, perfect, just like that. Keep it going. And stop just there. Perfect. Well, I think that's enough of you on the ground. Let's have one of you up in the tree now. Let's show off some of that lovely camouflage. Lovely. Perfect. And now, just to finish today's shoot, let's have one close-up headshot. Oh, wonderful. It's so much easier with a professional. Leaving the ocean trail behind us, we worked our way back to Harry's Harbour, but this time we took a small track down to another small harbour where we found, yes, you've guessed it, yet another iceberg. During our stay at Nancy's Nest, we made a great connection with Dale and Nancy, and we were invited back to stay with them again in 3 weeks' time. Dale said he would have his boat in the water by then, as the cod fishing season would be open, and he very kindly invited us to go along. Little did we know it, but this bay would hold a very special place in our hearts when we returned, and a future video will explain all. But for now, it's goodbye to Harry's Harbour, and we're off to Le Monde Campground in Gros Morne National Park.
So that's the hike from the campground here up and over and down the other side to Payne's Cove. It says Payne's Cove and Stanleyville, and it says follow this historic path to the shores of Payne's Cove and the abandoned community of Stanleyville, which was a small logging town in the early 1900s. You can still find old machinery and garden plants today, though Stanleyville has been deserted for more than 80 years.
Fragile space in a single sail, white rocky island, you and I on the trail.
No, it's locked.
Try it from the other side.
No need to behave.
No.
Still locked?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. We won't go in. Now we've passed a lot of what we call moose poop, and this is probably a typical size deposit that we've seen, and in the same way that bears shit in the woods, moose like to go to toilet on the trail. We keep seeing signs of a moose that's walked down here, and he must be pretty big because you can see where he's churning up. Good morning and welcome to Gros Morne National Park.
With the tide in the harbor of healing.
Good morning. Last night we camped at Le Monde, or Le Monde. Woke up to rain this morning, but we thought, well, we'll put our waterproofs on and we'd do a hike. So we walked from the campsite to here at Stevensville Cove.
Stanleyville.
Well done. I was nearly there. Bringing our breakfast, but we forgot our spoons. So the Boy Scout that Paul Harrow he found me a mussel shell. So that's working. Well done.
There we are. Mussels from Brussels.
Oh my God.
But it's the sun's come out now, which is beautiful because it was really dull and overcast when we set off, and we followed some gigantic moose footprints in the wet mud all the way down to this cove, and we were really hoping to see one, but there's nothing here at the moment. Just us and a loon. And even he's disappeared now, I think.
A lonely loon. He was here. I think he's
But
died.
the sky is certainly improving.
Mhm.
So, with a bit of luck, when we get back, by the time we get back, the car should have dried out a bit.
How are you getting on with your implement, Paul?
Well, I shall.
No, don't start.
I'm getting on all right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Wonderful, worked really well. I'll just do the washing up. Finished.
What about your tub?
I'll leave that to you. I can't do everything.
Ugh.
Are you ready, Fanny?
Are you filming?
I am, yeah.
I'm just sorting my feet out and I got bitten.
Oh.
I love these chairs, but they're hard to get out of.
Feel like that breakfast has given you the energy to climb back up over that hill?
Oh, I thought you was going to say run back.
Well, not run. That is where we have to go now. Up and over the other side of that is our campground.
Yeah.
Slowly does it.
Are we going to look for any ruins?
Any ruins?
There's
Yeah.
a mill or something.
Well, this is true.
But I don't know where.
We read on the notes before we set off that Stanleyville was a small little logging village in this cove. We're not sure if the cove is called Stanleyville. It might be
It's
called
Payne's
Payne's
something.
Cove.
Yeah.
But apparently it said in the notes that down at in Stanleyville there are remnants of the old logging days.
Perhaps we're just
But,
not in the right
I'm not-
cove.
Whether we are too late, I'm not sure. Anyway, we've had a wonderful hour, I think, sitting here watching the loon, watching a couple of seals, eating breakfast from a mussel shell.
What more could you want?
What more could a lady want?
A spa.
We think we've found some remnants. Is there a path out there?
Well, maybe here. Go
This looks
careful.
like it's just to hope there's not too much water underground. We need to do a bit of gardening. So what have we got here?
What is
Looks like
that
it-
then?
well, that looks like a boiler for steam energy.
This moose
Ooh.
print.
Look at that big moose print down there.
I was going to say, it looks like moose print
Wait a
down
minute,
here.
let me angle this round. Look at that. That's a big old moose who's got a print like that.
Some sort of wheel.
Yeah. Piston. Just like me. Piston broke.
White rocky island, you and I on the trail, just us and the waves. No need to behave in the harbor of
We're on the plateau.
Oh,
It's all-
downhill.
It's all downhill from here.
Cool.
pine straw beds, tangerine tears, t-shirts laid out like our grief throughout the years. We say it all with bait on our lines. We rise and we fall.
In case anybody's wondering, I didn't speed that up coming down those stairs. That's just how nimble I am.
Oh my god!
Oh my god,
You idiot.
spoke too soon. Well, although we woke up to rain this morning, it's quite windy and the rain clouds have been blown away and the sun's come out and it's beautiful. Couldn't ask more for our first day in Gros Morne. In fact, I would say ever since we've arrived at Lomond Campground, things have looked up. Chrissy got me very excited last night.
What do you need me to say?
No, well, I wondered how quickly you would say it's garlic mayo.
Oh, it was garlic mayo.
Yeah, that's what we'll say.
Paul Harrow.
So that there is the trail that we've just come from the cove over the other side of those trees. Chrissy is just happening to, now we're back at the campground, have a little break.
Another red chair.
She's admiring the view that we have from this campground. So just to give you a quick whiz round, just down the bottom here are campsites for tent camping. Tent camping only down there. Then they have little cabins. There's no water in any of these. There's just basically a bed, a settee, a small fireplace. That's it, very limited. But they do provide these, a couple of these on this campground, buildings for everybody's use. And if I just give you a quick whiz inside, quite basic, but you can put a few logs on there, cook on there, wash in here, wash up. So it's perfect if you want to sit down here and it's windy and raining outside and you want to sit and enjoy that view. Here we go. Back at our campsite now. Well, it's now about 2:30 in the afternoon. Perfect time. Put the kettle on, have a hot brew, put our feet up and think about what we might do tomorrow.